Well, these are all pictures from Nigeria. Majority of Nigeria looks like this. But this is more like where I live. I live in Lagos. Lagos is one of the most populous countries in Africa, with over 200 million people and 250 ethnic groups spreading across 356 square miles. To put this into perspective, the United Kingdom is only 93,000 square miles. I'm often reminded how populous Lagos is when I go to the market. This is a picture of Mile 12 Market, a market that has produce from all over Nigeria, and everyone conveys here from Kaduna, from Abuja, from Sokoto. All of them come here, and most of the people in this populous city come here to buy produce and disperse it all around. Obviously, with such a large amount of people and cultures and ethnicities, you have a diversity of food. You have very, very diverse food that they create depending on the region that they're coming from. Whoa. So what do we eat? What do we eat in Nigeria? Tree worms? Sometimes. We eat tree worms this was a trip I took to the southern part of Nigeria, and on a road trip there, I saw this on the side of the road, and I was like, I have to try this. I remember eating it as a kid, but I grew up in America, so I haven't had this for over 13 years. It wasn't what I thought it would be.
What does it taste like?
Think about slightly ripe cheese with a crunchy exterior. Not bad if you don't. If you taste it without really thinking about what it is, you might enjoy it. It might be a really nice spread, actually. But also, we're on the coast. We have octopus. We also eat a lot of prawns, large prawns. We have some of the best king prawns come from Lagos. We also have tilapia. Rainbow tilapia is not like the gray tilapias that you see frozen in the markets. We have some the African arowana. They're some of the largest fresh fish in Africa, and catfish. And because of where we are, often culture evolved based on their climatic condition. We're living in a country where it's sunny most of the time, and we didn't have electricity. So when people want to preserve the excess amount of fish that they have, we smoke. We do a lot of smoking. We smoke fish, we smoke our clams, we smoke oysters, but also, based on the large amount of forestation that we have and the rich soil, we also have a vast amount of vegetables. We use everything when we cook. When we cook potatoes, we use our potato leaves. When we grow pumpkin, we use our pumpkin leaves in the food that we cook. We also use arrays of, we're speaking about bitter leaves in Stockholm and the benefits of bitter leaves in cuisines around the world, and how animals don't eat bitter leaves because obviously astringent and it's not palatable to most. So it's a very, very sustainable resource that we can incorporate into our food globally. But people often veer away from bitter foods because many people just don't know how to make them. In Nigeria, this is a young woman washing bitter leaf on the stream. This is the bitter leaf stream, where they wash. Nothing is added. This is all the astringency and the bitter leaves coming out, and they wash it with the river water. And all the things growing around, those are all bitter leaves. So they grow it, wash it, and they take it to the market to sell. We also have wide varieties of green beans, legumes, tomatoes, peppers, spices, varieties of spices that tomorrow I'm going to have the opportunity to show you guys some of those spices. From bark spices to tree seeds that sometimes I ask myself, how did these people discover that this is edible? Some of it, you see it foresight, you're like, I stay away from that, but it's just incredible. We use seeds and things that are often thrown out in very different ways, as stir fries, soups, stews. This is breadfruit seeds that we steam, then saute with palm oil, onion, ginger, garlic. We have meat substitutes. So this is African oil bean that we often use as a meat substitute, specifically in the southeast. It has a texture. If you've ever had escargot or snails, this has very similar texture. They ferment it from this pod, and then when they ferment it, they start slicing it. And this gives, it's very rich in umami, very complex. So what does it mean to global education and awareness of ethnic cuisine is incredibly important. As we've seen over and over again, the lack of this education and awareness causes a lot of demonization of cultures globally. Which, for instance, we think of cassavas. Cassava is one of the staple crops in Nigeria. A few years ago, a study came out that cassavas are carcinogenic. And they do. Raw cassavas have cyanide, very slight traces of cyanide. However, culturally, what we do, we ferment it. For fufu is fermented, then the starch is extracted, and then people make it into a pound and use it to eat stews. We also have it made into shredded then sun-dried, and when it needs to be rehydrated, it's rehydrated and made into abacha, which is also called the African salad. But what they didn't tell a lot of people in Nigeria is that cassava, although slight traces of it raw, has cyanide, is that when you ferment it, when you sun-dry it, when you boil it, all of those, every single trace of cyanide in it leaves. And then you have a root vegetable that is high levels of potassium, calcium, vitamin C, probiotics, especially when you ferment it. And these are all things that people in Africa need. Another one of these ingredients that I've gotten a lot of bad rap in the last couple of years is palm oil. Palm oil is an essential part of our cuisine. Over 100 years ago, palm oil was taken from West Africa to Southeast Asia, where it's now causing a large amount of deforestation and destroying the ecosystem of orangutans, which is terrible and should be dealt with very, very seriously. However, this is not because of what we do with palm oil. It's because of what the Western, giant conglomerates do with palm oil. In Nigeria, vitamin A is essential in nutrient. Palm oil is extremely rich in vitamin A. We use it in, the way we use palm oil, as you see this seed right here, we take off the flesh. So it comes as like a nut, but it has a flesh around it. And we take off the flesh, we pound out the fruit juice from the palm fruit, and then we often cook it with seafood. And this is one of the most complex dishes in Nigeria. It's called banga, and you make the broth from the fruit, juice from the palm fruit, and it's seasoned with licorice stick, lemongrass, leaves from lemon trees, oboronbebe, otaiko, a lot of the spices that I brought with me. And it's also, so this is how palm oil looks when they extract the oil from that juice. Now, palm oil got demonized, and people started telling Nigerians not to eat palm oil anymore, that it's bad for them, because people were researching the way Westerns use palm oil. And when the Western world, when they use palm oil in the manufacturing of goods, when you go to supermarkets in America, and in my research I found that Europe especially has taken a lot of action to stop, UK has taken a lot of action to stop palm oil use in the products in the supermarket. But when you go to a typical supermarket around the world, you find that 50% of this product, from your pizza dough to lotion to chocolate to shampoos, they all have palm oil in it because it's being used to stabilize it. So what they do is they extract all the nutrients from it and just have the essence of stabilizing it and put it, which is not what we do in Nigeria. we use it as a red palm oil. So when these studies of the inoculated palm oil went out to Nigeria, Nigerians were saying, everything we've been eating for thousands of years, is this bad for us? New studies, however, prove that wrong. Palm oil is rich in vitamin E, it's rich in vitamin A, and it has a lot of the essential nutrients that people in Nigeria need to survive. And the demonization of this is ruining the way people perceive both the people and the traditional cultures that they lived with for thousands of years. How do we, in my test kitchen, I run a test kitchen in Lagos, and in my test kitchen, how we celebrate local and seasonal food is by shopping at the market. Every time where we need to, every day we need to cook, we go to the small local market to buy our tomatoes, our vegetables, all the ingredients that we need to make a delicious meal. This also incentivizes the locals. It really adds a level of, it adds an investment to the people, the location that you're trying to change. We want to invest in, we want to be the voice, we want to be the change we want to see in the world. So every time we buy from people like this, we're creating a system that is more sustainable. As a Nigerian chef, I take great pride in our cuisine, and notably, if anyone here has had jollof rice, who here has had jollof rice, Nigerian food? So that's probably the most popular of our food, but we have so much more. We have different takes of beans and corn, amala, which is a fermented yam flour that is made into soup and stews, and we use everything when we cook. When you ask for beef in Nigeria, you get tripe, you get liver, you get everything that is with the cow. We have dumplings. This is dankwa, and it's made with bean flour in the northern part of Nigeria. We have fisherman seafood, which is, at the end of the day, a fisherman collects all of the things that he did not sell at the market, and they make really, really delicious food. This has like little, you can see small octopus, some fish, some shrimp, so everything, and it's always the most delicious. Obviously, the chefs eat the best, the farmers eat the best. Well, we would like to think the farmers eat the best, but sometimes that's not the case. In my practice, I take all of these beautiful dishes and I get inspired by it. I get inspired in a way that allows me to tell a story about Nigerian food in a very different way. I tell a story that uses art, that uses the flavor profiles, and bringing together the flavor profiles that I've learned globally in my privileged training around the world, to bring a different conversation to what it means to experience Nigerian food, and have conversations on what it means to really understand the people of Nigeria in general. We use representing our food in this way and seeing it represented on platforms that are often regarded for Western cuisines bring a level of pride and value to our cuisine. I love to meet people. I love to meet people locally when they ask me, "I can't believe you did that with Nigerian food. I can't believe like this. This is something that Nigerian food can be eaten at the James Beard House. Nigerian food can be eaten in London, you know." And they would be like, "Oyinbo people ate that. Oyinbo, white people is who they call Oyinbo." And like, yes, our food is good enough for anyone to enjoy. And me representing it in this way allows them to take a lot more pride in the food that they cook, in the food that is indigenous to our cuisine. And also another way that I celebrate food in Nigeria is by bringing like-minded people together, which brings me to a food summit we'll be hosting in Nigeria at the end of July, which brings people from multifaceted sectors of the society to find solutions to to the missing links in our food system, and create and develop action plans to solve them. With that, peace out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.